They know the language. Thank you, Jeff. So, welcome. Welcome. I told you that I work with Norfil. It's an organization that was created 30 years ago with Norway, Nor, and Filipino, Norfil. It's a 30-year-old non-governmental social service organization with its core office located outside of Manila in the Philippines. I was its first Peace Corps volunteer, and I lived with the Filipino staff of 4 to 5 folks in the home/office in the province of northern Cebu. That little boy was right. It's a collection. Cebu is a collection of islands south of Manila, and the Philippines itself is over 7,000 islands. Norfil had 4 offices on Cebu, and my team worked in 2 of them. On the northern tip of Cebu, in Bogo, where I lived most of the time, and then an 8-hour bus ride away on the southern tip of Cebu in Oslob. We traveled often, and we knew that long coastal highway well. Norfil's principal Cebu office was outside of Cebu City, in the middle of the island. We all traveled there monthly for general staff meetings, and I had to go there on weekends in November and December after the typhoon due to Peace Corps concerns for safety and security. That was after the typhoon. Norfil's office in Cebu City was staffed mostly by social workers, the Corps office. Those folks dealt with adoption, both international and nationally, and foster care placement of abandoned and neglected Filipino children. During my first general staff meeting at that office in October, I got to witness a Filipino couple introduce themselves to a 2-year-old Filipino girl in foster placement with the hopes of adopting her. It was a beautiful and loving experience to watch them woo this little girl and let her know that she would be safe and loved by this couple. I am a mom of an adopted child myself. It was an extraordinary moment for me to observe this special meeting of future family members. After the typhoon, and during another visit to the Cebu City office, I met a Filipino woman who brought a survivor baby from the orphanage in storm-ravaged Tacloban. She told the horrific story of working with 4 other staff that early Friday morning in November to shelter 33 children and infants under 6 years of age as they barricaded themselves under the conference table while Typhoon Yolanda, here known Typhoon Haiyan, brought its storm surge from the coast 3 kilometers away up to the gates of this orphanage. All survived, including the dog and cat who were both outside in the yard. This little orphan boy that I met would be flown to Manila that evening to await his hopeful parents from Belgium. Lucky little boy. Lucky potential parents, too. And if you want, I can email you a picture of my friend Johnny holding this beautiful, beautiful little boy. Our Norfil office in Bogo, in northern Cebu, did not work with adoptions. Instead, we met and identified families having children with disabilities. Our team consisted of Johnny, who was the social worker and my best friend. There was also a special ed teacher, an occupational therapist, an officer in charge, an office assistant, who was Dave the hero. We helped develop treatment plans for the families to help guide accommodations and interventions, and made occasional visits back to the home to monitor the child's progress. But mostly, our team was involved with trainings. This team had 5 years to ensure that all facets of the community who would have any occasion to interact with a child with disability would have awareness of the legal rights belonging to children and persons with disabilities. Our goal was this slogan: make the rights real. This was a campaign to accelerate the ratification and implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in Asia Pacific. This is the first international human rights treaty to promote and protect the rights of persons with disabilities. In the Asia Pacific region, there are about 650 million persons with disabilities, and the majority of them, guess what, live in poverty. It is time for all nations, all citizens, to support efforts to ensure equal rights and opportunities for persons with disability. Our Northfield team met with family groups to teach them about these rights. Leadership training was offered to these families to help them develop the skills to continue educating and empowering future families having children with disabilities. Last Thanksgiving Day, one of the most interesting Thanksgiving days I've had, our team attended the annual convention hosted by the parent organization founded by Northfield, which celebrated the effective participation of families with these trainings and with community involvement. This was one of my takeaways. I hope to work toward creating a group like this in Oconee County when I return to my work as a school psychologist in the fall. Well, actually, in August. We call that the fall, but that's really August. Okay, our team taught teachers about different types of disabilities and the rights of persons with disabilities to attend school. We shared disability resources with healthcare workers during their trainings. We explained developmental disabilities and the importance of early intervention to daycare workers. They call them daycare workers in the Philippines, like we try to call them child care workers here. That was one of my favorite trainings, as many child care workers have no idea of the importance of their work with young children and the impact that they can make on a young child's life, especially a child with disability. I was talking to Hayden, our nursery worker, as we were all getting together this morning, and I told him that I was going to celebrate nursery workers. Don't you know we are lucky with Hayden and Meg, and what's her name, Meg? And Madeline, our dedicated child care workers. See these flowers here? These are made from paper, newspaper, I think, but I'm not sure. And one of the child care workers gave those to me. So that was my souvenir. After one 2-day training with daycare workers in the South, one of the women who is about my age shared with us that she had fought having a child with disability in her child care program, but she was now ready and looking forward to the opportunity to work with a child with disability. There was some success right there. Our Northfield team also provided training to police officers and the women desk officers about intervention options when they assist persons with disabilities. You know, I never thought about doing that with police officers before. Newly elected government officials learned from our team about disability rights and the importance of giving persons with disabilities their attention when considering any change in the communities. I provided a 2-day training to Northfield's special ed teachers and therapists at Christmas time. One of the points we discussed was what we just talked about with the children. Nothing about us without us. This is a slogan used to communicate the idea that no policy should be decided by any representative without full and direct participation of members of the group who would be affected by that policy. This saying had been used for years, with origins in Central European political traditions, and it became the byword for democratic norms. Its English form came into use with disability activism during the 1990s. Nothing about us without us. The main goals and demands of this movement have been geared toward accessibility and safety in transportation, architecture, and the physical environment, equal opportunities in independent living, employment, education, and housing, and freedom from abuse, neglect, and violation of patients' rights. This book, Andrew Solomon's book, Far from the Tree. Before I left for the Philippines last summer, I was working my way through that book. And it's about disabilities. In the section about policy, Andrew Solomon wrote these words: "Someone who can't move his legs has an impairment, but if it is impossible for him to enter the public library, he is disabled." He goes on to say, "New policies are replacing those that restrict what the disabled can do. Modifications of the physical and social environment, once considered acts of kindness, are now being mandated." True confession. I celebrated my 60th birthday while I was in the Philippines. It was an occasion I will never forget, thanks to the love and appreciation of my Northville colleagues and their surprises and traditions. As an educator with special education for the last 30 years, I've found myself in awe of the international work to make the rights real for persons with disabilities. I saw UNICEF in action. I saw the World Health Organization in action. I saw Habitat for Humanity in action. All of these that we keep getting these envelopes from in our mailbox, and I saw their work in the Philippines. The importance of involving persons with disabilities in making policy and modifications was renewed for me. I am happy to say that I am returning to the public school system with improved skills and motivations for enhancing partnership. A part of that rejuvenation is sharing this information with you. If you want to know more, just let me know. I thank you for this attention. It was my honor and my privilege to experience my long-desired dream to work with the Peace Corps through the dedication and determination of the Northville visit. And I held on to this group here more than I can share. This group was a godsend to me. Midweek news would come. I would read every word because when I had internet, I would do it. Thank you for the partnership that you gave me. Our final hymn is "I'm on My Way." I guess we can do the whole thing. And I want to point out